It is 10:01. Good morning. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. The NFL Scouting Combine wrapped up in Indianapolis this weekend with a new 40-time record set by Texas wide receiver Xavier Worthy with a 4.21. Tennessee running back Jalen Wright impressed with a 4.38 40 and an 11.2 broad jump, the second longest recorded by a running back at the Combine. In NFL news, the Tampa Bay Bucks and wide receiver Mike Evans have agreed to a 2-year, $52 million contract that includes $35 million in guaranteed money, according to his agent. Evans has gone over 1,000 yards receiving for the Bucks every year of his career since coming into the league in 2014. Over the weekend, fourth-ranked Tennessee won a road battle at Alabama, 81-74 Saturday. Zakai Ziegler with 18 points. Josiah Jordan-James, a double-double, 11 points, 13 boards, and the Vols improved to 23-6, winning a sixth straight game. They now have sole possession of the top spot in the SEC standings, with games against South Carolina and Kentucky remaining. The Nashville Predators won an eighth straight in a rout over the Avalanche on Saturday, 5-1. Cody Glass with his first career hat trick, and Nashville Soccer Club grabbed a road point with a 1-1 draw at Colorado Rapids. Teal Bumbury with a stoppage time penalty kick goal. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
All right. Combine concluded. Vols on a heater. The Preds are too. Welcome in on this Monday. Hope you had a phenomenal weekend. Lucas Panzica is back there making it happen. He and I are with you until 1 o'clock, as is the custom. 615-737-1045. That's how you get in. You got the F&M Bank chat. If you want to live stream the show on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch, we'd be happy to have you. How's your weekend, bud?
Fantastic. Busy, but fantastic.
Yeah, you were all over the place. What time did you get out of Geodis? Because this was a road game at Colorado for Nashville SC, right? By the way, a draw for Nashville SC. They have not yet won a game, but they have not yet lost a game in MLS play.
A lot of rotation going on, injuries being dealt with, and midweek CONCACAF Champions Cup matchups to prepare for as well. Pretty big one coming up on Thursday.
Yeah, Messi's here in Nashville. I don't know if Giannis is going to make his way to Geodis Park mid-season, though it's probably better than dealing with a Bucks game. I'd say it's safe to expect. Actually, I don't know if I can expect Derrick Henry at Geodis Park on Thursday. Does he retain ownership of Nashville SC once he's no longer a player for the Titans?
Oh, yeah. No,
People are asking.
I don't think that investment just fizzles because he's no longer a Titans player, although technically he is until, what, March 12th?
13th. 13th is when the new league year begins. That is when players are free to sign with other teams, though deals can be agreed to technically and reported on, such as Mike Evans' new 2-year deal with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He is a name to remove from your Titans wish list. Apparently, the Titans had him on their wish list as well. Talk about that here in just a second. But you want a navel gaze to start the show, or you want to do it at the end of the show?
Do I want a what?
Navel gaze.
What in the world does that mean?
Urban Dictionary.
Never heard that word in my life.
It's a phrase that's 2 words, so you can look that up and then read the definition from Urban Dictionary if you would like. I'm asking if you want me to be self-involved at the start of the show or at the end of the show.
I figured it would just be a coast-to-coast, end-to-end thing anyway, so just go ahead.
Happy anniversary to the radio show. Yes. 3 years. It feels so much longer. Doesn't it?
Sure does.
Oh, God.
3 long, arduous years.
Is this what marriage is like? Jesus. 3 years. How is it like dog years? Is it actually 21 years? For every one, there's 7 years. Isn't that how?
I don't know.
I think they've changed the math on dog years.
They've changed the math on dog years. There's like a dog years calculator that you can plug into because it's after a certain point, a year becomes long. I don't know. Navel gazing on the Urban Dictionary, engaging in self-absorbed behavior, often to the point of being narcissistic.
That's put it on my tombstone, bud. Yeah, we made it. 3 years. They haven't fired us yet. As far as we know, our key card still works. So, we'll keep showing up until such time as they don't. But happy anniversary to us and to you guys. We appreciate you so much for hanging out with us the last 3 years. It's been a lot of fun. But we'll pivot now to the rest of the local sports news because Combine obviously concluded. The drills were fun. I really enjoyed watching this year's Combine, and it was, I don't know, less for me. Obviously, Titans aren't in the quarterback market, so very much less about the quarterbacks for me this time around. But I came away with it thinking that the quarterbacks were less and less the star attraction at the Combine.
Oh, there's a big reason for that.
Because the star attractions of the draft class were not participating in the Combine workouts. From the top quarterback prospects to Brock Bowers, there was some attrition as far as the skill players were concerned, but not a ton. For the most part, the wide receivers, the running backs, even the offensive linemen, the defensive linemen, all of it. I really enjoyed the Combine and the Combine coverage. Well done by NFL Network. Absolutely. UW says, congrats on 3 years. Didn't think it would make it after month one. We agree. we are as surprised as the rest of you.
The haters and losers are distraught.
Yeah, I've got it. Well, I can't say it on FM radio, but the garden tools are mad is how we'll phrase it. But yes, it was an enjoyable Combine. A lot of different results coming out of it. I suppose we could do a winners and losers segment, but it didn't really feel like anybody. But the players who got hurt are the people that had the worst Combine. But for the most part, I didn't come out of it feeling that anybody did themselves outright harm, did their draft stock outright harm, did their perception outright harm from participating in the Combine.
Who really, in recent years, has done themselves outright harm based on Combine workouts?
Ja'Kai Polite. Oh, workouts.
Yeah, interviews are a whole other thing. We're not privy to those, and Ja'Kai Polite was dumb enough to say that in front of the media.
It was so much fun.
Talking about wondering why they were showing him only his bad tape. But, like, DK Metcalf, right? Huge deals made of DK Metcalf and how slow he looked on the three-cone drill. Yeah. And DK Metcalf is a very, very good NFL player. So, I don't know. I mean, what's the prime example of a guy that really hurt himself at the Combine?
Well, it's usually related to injury more than it is performance, for sure. But this year I came away thinking that Brock Bowers, just because of the measurements, he's 6'3", he's a little guy. You weren't expecting that. Little guy Brock Bowers. It's not just the picture that makes him look diminutive next to Gronk. He actually is diminutive next to Gronk. But that's we'll talk about that here in a little bit.
Agent S. on the F&M Bank chat says Orlando Brown did himself some harm.
Oh, because that's right. That's probably the most public recent one.
Sure.
He just tested so poorly for a person that size, and he's been a fine NFL player. He's
had a good career.
He's had a career. He's made it to his second contract. I don't know that Bengals fans don't look at that deal and aren't hit with some pangs of regret for how much money they gave him. But he's been fine. He's been good enough. He's just not the most athletic person in the world. Now, athleticism for a tackle, probably the most important out of the offensive line positions. In fact, I was talking to some coaches about this last week up in Indy, and what would you say, if you had to take a guess, is athleticism the least impactful on the position? Like, you don't have to be a great athlete to play at the NFL level.
It depends.
I don't think it does.
Guard?
Interior.
Yeah.
Center is the position where athleticism least correlates to performance.
Depends on the offense. Like Jason Kelsey's athleticism has turned into a Hall of Fame career.
Sure, but he's hyper athletic for a center. He's the example. The rest of them, I love Ben Jones. Ben doesn't move like that. You know what I'm saying? Now, it allows you to do all kinds of different stuff with your offense. And you can be more creative with your running game. And if you can get Jason Kelsey out on the move and stuff like that as a lead blocker, and he's got the skills and the speed to be able to do that, sure, it helps. But that's the position that least correlates athleticism to being able to do the job well. Corner and wide receiver, obviously, at the top of the list. But we'll go through the Combine results. Wide receivers and offensive linemen, probably the thing that caught most of your all's attention, though there was highlights all over the place from a variety of different positions. We'll talk about the Vols, too. Speaking of Kelsey, it sounds like he's expected to announce his retirement today. No kegs this time around, just a presser. So that is something that we are waiting in the wings for. He's a Hall of Famer, yeah?
Gotta be. Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I mean, has anybody played the center position like Jason Kelsey?
Oh, I don't want to sound ignorant of NFL history, but there have been very high-level centers. Jason Kelsey is among the best.
I'm just talking about the way he played. For everything we're just talking about with that unique aspect of his athleticism.
I don't want to just because there's not one that jumps off like Nick Mangold is regarded as one of the best centers, but he wasn't Jason Kelsey in terms of how he played. So I don't want to go through and ignore some guys that I may not be thinking of off the top of my head. But yes,
14-year career, Super Bowl champion, 6-time first-team All-Pro. He's a Hall of Famer.
Okay. So we'll keep you updated with that throughout the course of the show. We'll obviously talk about the Vols' huge win at Alabama over the weekend. The Preds, my God. I know it takes 8 straight wins to get us to talk hockey, regular season hockey around here, but I promise you there is a Pan-Zika Preds minute.
You said how many wins?
8.
Okay. I thought you said 6.
No, 8. Are you already not listening? I'm 12 minutes in.
Vols have 6. Preds have 8.
Oh, so that's you.
We'll check the tape.
Making a mistake, not me. All right. I don't like when we check the tape. It usually makes me nervous. 615-737-1045 is the number if you want to jump in. Speaking of the Vols, the NCAA, they've got them on the ropes. They've had them on the ropes. They may already be knocked out at this point, but Tennessee got some news involving their NCAA investigation or lack thereof. We'll cover the details on that coming up next. Vols fans just keep celebrating victory after victory, and I don't necessarily mean their basketball team or their baseball team. Victories against the NCAA. We'll expand on that here in just a second. We'll give you the latest. First to the phone, 615-737-1045. That's the number. How about Ronnie in Clarksville to start us off on this Monday?
Yes. I got a question about everybody keeps writing off we don't need a quarterback. Of course, we like Will Levis, but there's about a 50-50 chance he won't even make it through the season without getting hurt if you look around the NFL. So what is their backup plan? I mean, is Tannehill still available on a cheap contract for a backup?
No, he don't want to. He don't want to come back. That's the only free agent I'm 100%. I don't put 100% on anything. Ryan Tannehill's 100% not coming back. He wants to start somewhere. What their backup plan is specifically, I can't give you very much detail, though they're looking for somebody who's capable of coming in spot duty and producing replacement level starting quarterback play, which currently does not exist on their roster. So as free agency nears, next week's going to be a bleep show. That's when this thing really kicks up in earnest, though you'll start to see some combine contract free agent news like Mike Evans' deal this morning. You'll start to see that trickle out of Indy.
Probably expect a veteran.
Yes.
Veteran to be brought in.
I would expect. Yeah, you're signing a veteran backup quarterback. Malik's on the roster. He's under contract. And if he makes it through training camp and through roster cuts, then we'll have a much different discussion. But right now, that is the less likely scenario, that Malik Willis would be your backup quarterback and that somebody who has played in a system similar, doesn't have to have played for Brian Callahan, but this is not an uncommon system around the NFL. So if you get a veteran backup quarterback that's got experience with that can come in, help kickstart the process, help Will continue to grow and learn, because, I mean, I agree. I'm not 100% in on Will Levis. I'm not 100% out on Will Levis. All I know is that he's going to be your starting quarterback for the foreseeable future.
There's a certain Italian quarterback out on the West Coast that's going to be suspended for 2 games.
Oh, no.
See, and I thought that's the reaction we would get from Titans fans. But, I feel like we're going to have to remind people every time we throw out these veteran quarterback names like Jimmy Garoppolo. He's not coming in to start for you. He's coming in to be your backup.
I know.
Name me a better veteran backup quarterback option than Jimmy Garoppolo. Quick, go.
I'll go through the list with you at some point.
Just saying.
Why? Do you want to walk up to him and do the little motion and compare pasta ziti recipes? Baked ziti recipes? That's what you want to do in the locker room post game?
Now you're just profiling.
I get profiled every time I go to the airport, bud. How's it feel? All right? You're going to be okay.
Yeah, but you get profiled because of your mustache, not anything else.
I haven't been to the airport since I've had the mustache. That's not true at all. Falsehoods. Tennessee, let's give you some details on the latest with the NCAA. The latest is that the NCAA is backpedaling harder than your favorite defensive back draft prospect at the Combine. Backpedaling because they have paused all investigations related to name, image, and likeness benefits for athletes, which completely deadens its interest in the University of Tennessee. Charlie Baker, who's the recently promoted president or recently put in place president of the NCAA, replacing Mark Emmert, put out a statement acknowledging that the impact of that preliminary injunction, easy for me to say, which suspended the NIL rules from Tennessee and Virginia attorneys general antitrust lawsuit against the NCAA, says, yeah, that really hurt us. And in the meantime, we don't have anything to investigate Tennessee about because there are no rules about NIL with Tennessee at this point in time. Quote, in response to this latest order, referencing the preliminary injunction, the Division I Board of Directors directed NCAA enforcement staff to pause and not begin investigations involving third-party participation in NIL-related activities. There will be no penalty for conduct that occurs consistent with the injunction while the injunction is in place. I agree with this decision while the progress toward long-term solutions is underway and while we await discussions with the attorneys general in circumstances that are less than ideal. This at least gives the membership notice of the board's direction related to enforcement. Yes, sit on your hands and do nothing. Go back to doing what it is the NCAA does. Sit on your hands and do nothing until it's time to investigate somebody. And now you can't even do that. Tough scene.
Tennessee doing the entire college football world a massive favor. Tennessee is Moses. The NCAA is the Pharaoh, parting the Red Sea for
now who's profiling?
All universities to be able to take advantage, full-blown name, image, and likeness with no threat of an investigation hanging over your head.
What do you think the NCAA put Charlie Baker in that position to do? Like when you saw, and maybe you didn't give it a second thought because it's just another suit who you're going to learn to hate the way that you did Mark Emmert. But when they put Charlie Baker in place, the former governor of Massachusetts, as the president of the NCAA, did you have any initial thoughts about who this person might be or what his influence might have or what the NCAA might be positioning themselves for?
Yeah, to try and make something happen with Congress, right? I mean, legislation, federal legislation on name, image, and likeness, because my first thought was this man has never done anything, never worked for a university, never done anything in the realm of college athletics, and now he's being asked to run the NCAA. So, yeah, my first thought was a very political move.
Wait. Taylor H. in the YouTube chat is saying Moses doesn't get into the promised land, my guy. What happened to Moses? I don't. This is going to expose our lack of religious or biblical knowledge. Now I'm scared. I don't remember the end of the story. Anyway, we'll leave the Red Sea references to a higher power. Point being, yes, Charlie Baker was put in place because as the NCAA prepared, or really tried to catch up, to wade through the waters of what the name, image, and likeness legislation would bring down in the Supreme Court's decision, they're putting themselves in position to have somebody who's familiar with how the government works. Except what do we know about the government? Doesn't work. More often than not, it's just kind of deadlocked. And you know what it's particularly hard to get through, or why it's particularly hard to get through Congress? Anything at all, any kind of legislation whatsoever. Right now, it's an election cycle. So you don't think about, stick to sports, Buck. No. Not this time, because these things are directly correlated with one another. They are not going to be able to move bleep through Congress during a presidential election cycle. Good luck.
It's tough for your only hope to be for something to get moved through Congress with with widespread support. That's tough. That's what the NCAA has. That's all the NCAA has right now.
Yeah. So, really, they have nothing. They have nothing. They have no investigations. They have no teeth with which to even bear right now. They're toothless. I'm drawing a blank on the children's book about the toothless shark. I remember there being a children's book about a toothless shark that
does not ring a bell for me.
Okay, there's somebody with actual real life children will be able to respond to us.
And the NCAA needs to just sit in the corner, prepare the March Madness tournament, and then be quiet about everything else.
Oh, and by the way, not screw up the March Madness tournament in the meantime because they're trying to expand. Remember, and also maybe throw court stormers into jail, as Jay Billis suggested. Jay Billis just wants entire student body populations arrested. That's a conversation for another day. But for the purposes of Tennessee, listen, however you feel about the Tennessee Attorney General, whatever side of the political aisle that you fall upon, this man was very, very effective when it came to chasing away the NCAA. Because to go back to February 23rd, and by the way, our buddy Adam Sparks has done exhaustive reporting on this at the Knoxville News Sentinel. He's been going through NCAA investigations with the University of Tennessee for the past 5 years, basically. I think since he's been on the beat in some form or fashion. But he's done a great job, as has their news department down there, or over there. February 23rd, you've got the Judge Clifton Corker granting the preliminary injunction in the Eastern District of Tennessee. What happens then? Just to recap. Freezes the NCAA's rules regarding name, image, and likeness benefits for athletes until the case concludes. So there's just kind of a holding pattern, and the NCAA has no choice. They got to throw their hands up and be like, all right, bleep us, yeah? I guess we'll just circle back to the investigations on Tennessee. No, not so fast, my friend. So Jonathan Skrmetti, who's the Tennessee AG, said when the NCAA investigation came into light, it signaled to him that it was time to sue. That turned out to be their most effective weapon in all of this and did get that preliminary injunction granted after our legal expert said that it would be pretty difficult to get that done. You remember Dan Lusk kind of being like, all right, after they shot down the preliminary injunction and the TRO, the temporary restraining order, the first time, it's pretty difficult to circle back around and get that done again. Now, they didn't get necessarily the TRO, but the preliminary injunction on the second trip back through the Eastern District of Tennessee gets the job done.
Now, but Judge Corker did say after the TRO was denied in his briefing that while they did not manage to show immediate irreparable harm, which is why the TRO was not granted, that Tennessee had the better case, that Tennessee would be favored if this were to go to trial.
Yes.
So I think the preliminary injunction being granted was the outcome that we anticipated, especially after what we heard about how things went down in the courtroom with the NCAA lawyers fumbling through their answers about what an image and likeness even is.
I wish we had audio of that.
Yeah.
That would be delightful.
Wish it was live streamed.
Oh, my God. That would be, yeah, I mean, you probably can't. You probably can't do things like that, but that would be incredible. Now, that doesn't mean that all NIL rules are gone, right? There are still some that hold in place, and that's prohibition for pay for play, outright pay for play. That's still something that's not allowed by the rules. Direct institutional payment for NIL is still not allowed, though we'll get to some more reporting by Adam Sparks of the Knoxville News Sentinel and Tennessee regarding that here in just a second. And then the quid pro quo requirement. That is also something that is still in effect. Now, to the second point about direct institutional payment for NIL. Did you read over the weekend what Sparks reported? That the University of Tennessee is preparing for a situation, basically putting the internal processes in place to start paying athletes like employees of the university directly.
Preparing for a future without the NCAA.
Correct. Now, I'm going to have an unpopular opinion on this, okay? I think that there still needs to be some kind of governing body. Now, if it is called the NCAA outright, then it needs to be the NCAA. If it's a commissioner of college athletics that oversees all this, and you don't call it the NCAA, but it kind of does the job that the NCAA was supposed to be doing the entire time, there needs to be something. I'm not going. I point and laugh at the statements about the NCAA and fear trafficking and wild west and this, that, and the other, a situation that they created. But I still do acknowledge that does not work to the benefit of the athletes.
Yeah, but I don't think that's an unpopular opinion. I agree with you. I think most people agree with you.
If I said that I need to keep the NCAA in some form or fashion, that's an unpopular opinion, even if it's not the NCAA by name.
I don't think people are saying that there needs to be no rules, right? There needs to be parameters. Those just aren't the people that need to be setting them. The people that have continuously failed the sport and its athletes time and time and time again are not the ones that should be setting up those guardrails. So, yes, there needs to be a commissioner. There probably should be a CBA, and we probably should stop pretending like this isn't a professional sport when it very much is, and players need to start seeing TV money, not mom-and-pop money or State Farm money or literally fan money from collectives.
Yeah, the TV money, when you negotiate the television contracts for collegiate athletics, there needs to be some kind of player representation, some kind of union for players, whether that's swimmers, whether that's football players, basketball players, or the like. There needs to be some kind of union for the players to be able to represent either themselves or to have some level of representation. Now, again, that's what Tennessee reportedly is preparing for. That the players are about to have a seat at the table. Long overdue. Now, we're going to talk about, we've got a note in here about Johnny Manziel and Reggie Bush and things like that, but imagine being Johnny Manziel or Tim Tebow or Reggie Bush or all these other athletes who were huge industries unto themselves, who made so much money for their respective institutions and for their sports. You don't just have to be, even Caitlin Clark and Caleb Williams, who made $10 million in name, image, and likeness and name, image, and likeness related sponsorship deals over the course of the last 2 seasons, they're going to look back at this and be like, well, bleep, we could have made so much more money because they're not actually making the real money.
And they did make money, those guys. I mean, I don't know about Tim Tebow, but like Johnny Manziel made some money, right? But remember what we talked about with his dad having that conversation with Kevin Sumlin. According to Johnny, we'll give you 2 more years for $3 million.
Oh, it's such a good deal.
That's insanity. $1.5 million per season of the Heisman Trophy winning quarterback at one of the richest institutions in America.
And the guy that beat Alabama. You could have you know how much money you could have made off the Money Manziel sign?
I mean, it's a fraction of what he was worth to that university. They literally were able to completely renovate the stadium because of him.
People are making their own suggestions in the F&M Bank chat. We'll read some of those here in just a second. There are also, the phone lines are also open if you would like to get involved, 615-737-1045 on the latest, the NCAA suspending their investigation into the University of Tennessee in light of the preliminary injunction that basically voids name, image, and likeness regulations, almost all name, image, and likeness regulations, as the case continues between the Commonwealth of Virginia, the state of Tennessee, and the NCAA. A quick reminder that the Install Live is officially announced. We got a date, May the 3rd. You can join us for this live taping of the Install with Greg Cosell. He's flying in from Philadelphia. I'm going to be hosting. It's at the Analog at the Hutton Hotel Friday, May the 3rd. Greg is going to be breaking down the entire Titans 2024 draft. It's 6 days after the draft. You can't get much fresher insight and analysis than 6 days after the draft. Greg Cosell taking your questions and breaking down tape for you. Obviously, we'll have the free agency class in hand, and that'll be great. We will also be raising money for Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, which Lucas will tell us a little bit more about. He had some involvement with a great event last night. So we're going to be doing all of that on Friday, May the 3rd. The tickets are on sale right now. They're only $25 to get in the door. There's also a VIP package, too, if you want food and beverage included with your ticket purchase. 1045thezone.com today for more details. Jeremy wants to know, is Buck going to do another hot chip challenge to sell tickets? No, I'm not going to do that because the hot chip challenge killed somebody. And since then, our corporate Cumulus lawyers are very scared of us doing anything around hot chips or bets or dares other than, the occasional face paint, which I'm still avoiding 2 years later. For the NCAA, I think that they are going to have to take a step back while this case is ongoing. I mean, this is what is going to happen. It's not just what I think. It's what we all think and know.
It's what is happening. They are taking a step back.
But they are going to have to fundamentally reorganize their structure if they want to survive. If the NCAA, an institution that's been in place since damn near the 1800s, wants to continue to operate under the title NCAA, they are going to have to make some serious organizational shifts. Who's your first call if you're Charlie Baker? Because I'm calling Greg Sankey. As soon as before the investigation is suspended, I'm calling Greg Sankey and be like, all right, Greg, give me some advice here. I'm willing to work. Let's come to the table. Let's cut a deal or something. Let me see where you and the Big Ten are at in your advisory role and give me some advice on how it is that I'm supposed to manage collegiate athletics into the future because I just got bleeped.
And it's hard. You'd be hard-pressed to find an organization worse at looking into the future with a strategic point of view than the NCAA. Like the NCAA, notorious for ignoring looming inevitable changes in college sports until they were absolutely, literally forced to by the Supreme Court. Now we're asking them to build out and anticipate change and prepare for it.
Yeah.
The way that Tennessee, more reporting from Knox News, not just this from Adam Sparks about Tennessee creating the NIL salary fund for a future without the NCAA, but that they had been preparing for this for months and months and months, like anticipating this from the NCAA, and Tennessee was swift, and Tennessee obviously comes out on top here. But this quote from Dondi Plowman on that report of Tennessee creating that NIL salary fund that the Board of Trustees approved on Friday, she says, quote, "It's really an effort to try to be agile and be ready for the coming changes." The opposite of what the NCAA has been in the modern era. Tennessee has shown an agility that would impress pro scouts at the NFL scouting combine. What do we think Dondi Plowman's three-cone drill would be?
Probably not more impressive than the fake one that Amarius Mims ran. You see that? They had him down for a 3-cone time and he didn't even do it.
And it was off the charts insane.
It's insane. I mean,
oh my God, how is that possible?
I saw somebody in the comments below the time say, I just dropped to my knees in a Home Depot.
Just a clerical error.
433, Donde Plowman out there cutting it up. So we'll circle back to that as more information becomes available. We'll certainly talk more about the Vols at the Combine and a huge victory for the Vols in Alabama over the weekend. 615-737-1045 is how you join the discussion. Let's talk about a veteran left tackle hitting the open market. Titans fans are intrigued. We'll talk about that next. Welcome back on this Monday. Trying to get down on a left tackle, draft, free agency. What's your fancy? You're going to have options. Combine concluded. There's going to be a lot of news coming out of that. Free agency right around the corner, and the cap casualties have already started to roll. When I say the name Tyron Smith, what comes to mind? Good offensive line play. Borderline Hall of Fame caliber left tackle based on his entire career. He's 32 years old. And it came out last week, or in the last couple of days, towards the end of the week in Indy, that the Dallas Cowboys and Tyron Smith were no longer going to be a part of each other's lives. They're going to see other people. Do you have any Cowboys fans in your life? They're everywhere.
Yeah.
Are they disgruntled? I mean, generally, but are they disgruntled in light of the news of Tyron Smith being released?
I have a friend from college who suffers from the worst case of BVS that I've ever seen in anybody, and he has significant BCS.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God. A Cowboys and Vols fan? Yeah, I mean, particularly tortured in the last 15 to 20 years. But Cowboys fans are pissed because Tyron Smith gets unceremoniously released, and apparently the Cowboys were just unwilling to meet the contract demands that he and his representation were seeking. Cowboys can't do anything with their free agents until the league year has started, except for cut guys, which is happening right now. And Tyron Smith is somebody who availability has been a question for sure. He's 32 years old, as I mentioned. Do you know how many games, over the last 4 seasons, do you know how many games Tyron Smith averages a season for the Cowboys? You want to take a guess?
It's tough because he was actually pretty available last season, right? But I think it's like been off and on. He's had an injured season, a healthy season, an injured season. So because of that, I'll say about 8.
7.5.
Yeah.
7.5 games per season, which is, of course, less than half. Now, is that going to improve as he ages? There's nothing to guarantee that he won't stay healthy, I guess, other than, trafficking and precedent. But there's certainly a less likely percentage chance that he's going to continue to hold up. He's got a lot of mileage on his body. And like we've said, it's not been a great experience in the last couple of weeks.
And it's been several different. It's been neck.
Yeah, it's all over the place.
Ankle, hamstring.
So, should the Titans be interested in Tyron Smith? I would argue, and, this is pre-rest of cap casualties. There may be some post-June 1 releases and things like that. He's probably going to be the best free agent option out there, though, at the left tackle spot, for sure. Not just because of his pedigree, not just because of his resume, but based on what is available for you to sign in the free agent market. 32-year-old Tyron Smith, averaging 7.5 games per season in the last 4 seasons, is going to be your best option out here. And here is your screaming reminder to not sign a left tackle in free agency. No thanks. Not unless you absolutely have to. Not unless you're cap-strapped like the Chiefs and you're trying to piecemeal this thing together. And, we got Patrick Mahomes. What does it matter if our owner is an F-? We win Super Bowls here because we've got the $500 million quarterback. He is the poster child for red flag, warning all over the place. Don't spend real money on the left tackle in free agency. The good ones aren't out there. Now, there's been a lot of Cowboys fans parsing Jerry Jones's decision-making and the Cowboys front office decision-making because Jerry Jones is releasing his potential Hall of Fame left tackle and then saying that the Cowboys are all in right now. After coming off one of Tyron Smith's more available seasons, as Lucas said. But for the Titans and for the money that they have to spend, it has to be the least viable option for you to address your left tackle needs. Do so in free agency. For starters, you can find a backup, you can find a veteran, you can find a swing tackle, certainly, and you can pay the amount of money that costs. Because those guys, by the way, are not inexpensive either. If you can find a competent swing tackle, you're making decent money. Maybe you're making Andre Dillard type of money. He's not been cut yet. Again, they don't have to, but I'm fascinated to see what happens with Andre Dillard.
Superman Sucks on the F&M Bank chat says, hell no, he's old. Next question, talking about Tyron Smith. But it's not even the age that would turn me off of Tyron
I'm
Smith.
fine with 32.
Yeah, Trent Williams is doing it at 35, right? Andrew Whitworth went past 40. Jason Peters, did he even retire?
No.
He's 41?
Yeah, he's 41.
What is he, a free agent?
Yes, he was most recently a Seahawk.
Yeah, he was a Seahawk last year, and he played. He started games.
Played well.
So, I don't care. 32? He's a spring chicken. I don't care about the age. I care about the injuries.
You are a team. Now, they have still yet to hire a strength and conditioning coach. Rand Carthon told us at the Combine that was what they were going to hone in on after they got back from Indy and got through the stadium groundbreaking and all the other fluff that's going on around this thing. That strength and conditioning, I would expect a strength and conditioning coach to be announced within, certainly the next 2 weeks. So maybe you feel, based on Tyron Smith's injuries, that you have a strength and conditioning program that might be able to manage a 32-year-old left tackle coming off a variety of different injuries. Why risk it? Why risk it in a draft class like this? I think most people are probably of that same mind, especially now that we're through the Combine. You see, and the Combine is a test of athleticism, and then if you watch tape, then you go back and see how the athleticism marries to the tape or parallels the tape that you've already seen on these guys. It all comes back to what they've put on film, not 40 times in bench press or whatever. But we understand this draft class to have a good amount of depth at this particular position. He's probably, I'd be curious on Spot Track. Lucas, perhaps you could look this up for me.
His
Market value might be. They may not have one because it's Monday, and I don't know that they update those things over the weekend, and that was a transaction that came down over the weekend. But I'd be fascinated to know what the projection is, because it's probably higher than what they're projecting.
What do you think? On a one-year deal, what would you project?
Dillard made just under 10 average last year. I'm gonna say 16 mil.
Currently, Spot Track estimates his market value as being a one-year deal worth $7.5 million.
$7.5
Yeah,
million?
that's lower than I would have thought.
No, I don't think.
Yeah,
I don't think that's going to be.
Well, but if it is in that neighborhood, let's say 16, what would you be more comfortable with? Spending money on left tackle in free agency and addressing wide receiver at 7, or spending money on wide receiver and addressing left tackle at 7?
The latter, for sure.
I know Brian Callahan talks about prioritizing the guy that can score touchdowns, but the Titans can do that without having to take a receiver at 7. You can still prioritize wide receiver and take a receiver in day 2 and spend big on wide receiver. For maybe their way of prioritizing the guy that can score touchdowns can be in how they're spending. Doesn't have to be that 7th pick.
Sure. And I think that's just something that we're going to continue to remind people until we get through free agency, because there's so much pre-draft stuff floating around, that I think fans can get caught up and forget that free agency comes first. Landon Fowler in the F&M Bank chat, where you can interact on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. You can live stream there. Says, you don't bring in Bill Callahan to sign a vet. Old dogs don't learn new tricks. Well, that's not true. You bring him in because you can do a lot with both what's on your roster, what's out there. He's going to lift all ships, right? He's a tide that lifts all ships if you're Bill Callahan. So that shouldn't preclude you from signing a vet. Now, is it easier to come in and mold a young guy? Sure. There's a bunch of different reasons to not sign a veteran left tackle to be your starter. But not because Bill Callahan doesn't want to work with a vet or can't work with a vet. That's just factually inaccurate. Speaking of free agents, one wide receiver that was on a lot of Titans fans' wish list, he just came off the board. We'll talk about Mike Evans' new deal and the Titans' level of interest in him coming up next.
It is 11:01. Good morning. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. The NFL Scouting Combine wrapped up in Indianapolis this weekend, although star quarterbacks like Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams did not work out at Lucas Oil Stadium. Texas wide receiver Xavier Worthy set a new 40-time record with a 4.21. In NFL news this morning, the Tampa Bay Bucks and wide receiver Mike Evans have agreed to a 2-year, $52 million contract that includes $35 million in guaranteed money. According to his agent, Evans has gone over 1,000-yard receiving for the Bucks every year of his career since coming into the league in 2014. Tennessee basketball heads into the week with sole possession of the top spot in the SEC standings with 2 regular season games remaining following an 81-74 win at Alabama on Saturday. Zakai Ziegler with 18 points, Josiah Jordan-James with a double-double. The Preds stayed red hot in 8th straight win, routing the Avalanche on Saturday 5-1. Cody Glass with his first career hat trick, and Nashville Soccer Club grabbing a road point Saturday night, 1-1, a draw at Colorado Rapids. On Sunday morning, the family of longtime ESPN NFL reporter Chris Mortensen announced that he passed away at the age of 72. The award-winning reporter had been battling cancer since 2016. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once, and your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
How long is Mike Vrabel going to be fired before we change the open with Mike Vrabel in it? How long, Lucas? How long?
I think that every time it plays, I'm like, I got to do that. And then
John Robinson was fired for a year before we finally pulled the open that had John Robinson in it.
Did we?
How long is Mike? Did we pull it?
I don't know. I feel like we might still have that.
I feel like I haven't heard it in a while. Watch it. It'll come up in the noon hour. How long? Put it on a poll right now at Buck Rising. How long will Mike Vrabel be fired for before we actually pull the open with Mike Vrabel in it?
I don't know. I think we should turn it into a bit.
Well, it's going to turn into a bit, not because we're trying to turn it into a bit, because nothing will get done because we don't follow through on anything.
We should have asked Brian Callahan to say the exact same words. I know, Buck, everyone knows you have a radio show, and just plugged it in. That's what we should have done.
He doesn't have as distinguishing a voice. Like, Vrabel is recognizable. Callahan just sounds like, I don't know, he sounds like a substitute teacher almost a little bit.
So,
you get that vibe?
So what voice would you want to replace it with?
I don't know. I would like something organic. I would like something good. Seeing as none of those things are going to happen here in the foreseeable future, we'll just continue on as we typically do and have done for the last 3 years with fired coaches playing in our open. Good morning. Welcome in. 615-737-1045 is the number. If you want to join the conversation, we'd be happy to have you. Conversation is around free agency. Now that the combine is concluded, we largely turn our attention, though we will go over the results of the players and the prospects that you care about in the noon hour for combine stuff. We'll do a little combine here in this hour, too. Vols having a big weekend at the combine in particular. But a wide receiver officially off the board that you were interested in free agency. Mike Evans agreed reportedly to a 2-year deal worth $52 million, $35 million guaranteed, according to Derek Gilmore, his agent. Adam Schefter, the first with the report. He was set to be a free agent next week. Now at 30 years old, and he'll be, I believe, 31 by the start of the season, he's probably going to be in Tampa Bay for the rest of his career. He would have been the top wide receiver free agent. I mean, maybe by anybody's list, depending on what your need for wide receiver free agents is. But if I was the Titans, I would absolutely have him at the top of my free agent list. That's a player worth investing in. Mike Evans, DeAndre Hopkins, and the corpse of Traylon Burks and Kyle Phillips, I guess. But you feel a lot better about the guys who haven't done anything for this roster just yet if you have 2 guys proven who can really, really elevate your team in a real way. It still shouldn't preclude you from drafting a wide receiver, but obviously that is now off the table. Who's the top wide receiver free agent, pending free agent, expected to hit the market? Because if I'm Jacksonville, I don't think I'm letting Calvin Ridley go.
Yeah, but he's on there as of now. So he's
at the top of the list?
He has to be included in this. Is he? I mean, is that the number one name? You've got Calvin Ridley, Hollywood Brown, Michael Pittman.
Yeah.
I think it's Calvin Ridley.
I agree. And Mike Evans is in a different class than all of those players, even though Mike Evans and Calvin Ridley are basically the same age. I think Ridley's like a year younger, maybe a year and a half. But as you look at the wide receiver free agent class, again, there are still ways to supplement your roster, but this takes a pretty big piece off the board. And it just serves as a reminder that really the top free agents don't make it to the market. Except, did you see that Christian Wilkins, the Miami defensive tackle, is expected to be a free agent?
I did not.
Yeah, Miami is not going to tag him, and he's expected to be able to test the market here in just about a week, 10 days, 9 days, when the new league year officially begins. Legal tampering will happen before that, so that'll be all well and good. But the best free agents rarely hit the open market, and Mike Evans is the latest reminder of that. Now, as you look at the wide receiver class, I mean, Odell Beckham is going to be a wide receiver. You're shaking your head no. You're making
thanks.
a face like you smell something bad.
Yeah, no thanks.
I mean, he was okay.
He was fine.
But he was definitely more a complimentary piece in Baltimore than he was any kind of a driver. Then you get into guys like Curtis Samuel, who has had a solid career as a pro. Tyler Boyd, solid career. MVS, no thank you. I'm good on that experience. And DJ Chark, Paris Campbell, McCole Hardman, who apparently, allegedly, leaks game plans, although him and his agent are out on the internet very, very quickly denying it. He appeared in one more game than teams he is accused of leaking game plans to for the Jets, which is a hilarious stat.
Curtis Samuel's an interesting one.
Yeah.
If you don't want to pay what it would require for Hollywood Brown.
I think that price range is probably.
You think it's similar?
Oh yeah. I would think so. I mean, I bet there's like Hollywood Brown. I'd like to look at their stats just for a comparison off the top, because I don't necessarily know off the top of my head. And I bet Curtis Samuel gets a smaller deal than does Hollywood, but I bet there's not more than $2 to $3 million difference in a contract size on an average annual basis between those two players. They're different players.
His market value is $11.5 million per year. Curtis Samuel's.
Yeah, so that's less than $3 million lower than the projected contract on an average annual basis than the projected contract for Hollywood. Again, these are just estimates. Doesn't mean that they're going to make for sure a 3-year, $34.6 million deal or a 4-year, $52 million deal, whatever the prediction was.
Yeah, SpotTrack has Hollywood's as about $15 million per year. But for me, the biggest thing to accomplish in free agency at wide receiver is somebody that can get under deep passes from Will Levis.
In free agency?
Yes, the vertical threat. And
why specifically free agency?
As opposed to getting the complete player at wide receiver that you can build with for the future, which I think you can address in this draft. And there is speed in this draft.
Oh, see, I would pay more for reliability than I would for the outright ability to get behind a defense. Now, you want them to be able to create separation.
I mean, you're talking about playing into Will Levis's strengths. That's the biggest one that jumps to mind for me.
Yeah, but is that I guess I'm confused as to why that should be prioritized specifically in free agency. The thing that I would like to pay for is reliability. Now, when you say the word reliability, you know who comes to mind for me? NWI. NWI is reliable. But Titans fans aren't going to be excited by that, nor am I advocating necessarily to bring NWI back, and it certainly would be a more cost-effective contract than one of these. But I want somebody that the quarterback knows is going to be able to consistently come up with the ball on a regular basis. Now, it helps that those two already have a pre-existing relationship, and you saw some of that start to develop over time. I'm not saying bring back NWI, but I'm more willing to spend in free agency for a player who's got a level of consistency to him, who has more of a well-rounded game than, all right, just speed. I'm paying for speed. Get under the deep ball, shift the safeties when necessary, help us take the top off of the defense, help us back the defense off a little bit. Let's free things up in the middle of the field and things like that. I don't at least for me, I don't go into free agency saying, okay, this is what I want specifically, and then I'll find the other thing in the draft.
Okay, then what names do we get to then in that regard? Calvin Ridley, Michael Pittman at the top of the list?
Yeah, those are the two. Those are the two. And I don't think so. Are you looking for a more cost-effective solution? Because you're narrowing down the kind of player that you're going to sign, or the kind of player that you're going to pay for if you're just focusing. And I understand you're not just focusing on that specific skill set. But if that's what you value, then you can find that. You can find fast guys or dudes with great 40 times all up and down the free agent list. Just to be able to get under a deep ball for Will Levis. Hopkins can get under a deep ball for Will Levis. The thing about Hopkins that makes him different is that he's got the ability to start and stop very easily, even at his advanced age for a wide receiver, and creates separation in his own unique way to create those explosive plays. That's still getting under a deep ball.
Okay, you want to talk about reliability then. Tyler Boyd.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Could probably spend, if it's, say, a one-year deal, less than $10 million.
Yeah.
Right around there, maybe?
I bet it ends up being more. Like, I think all the projections that we're seeing are low. I think this is just setting us up for a Christian Kirk type of situation where a contract comes out and people are like, whoa.
Well, it only takes one, yeah.
It's just, whoa, way too much money. And then it's, no, dopes, the cap went up $30 million. Of course, everybody's going to get more money than the projections. JR says Chris Moore should be re-signed for what? What did Chris Moore do last year? Special teams. Let me not. I was too busy.
And he popped up in some moments. Chris Moore.
Okay, but Lucas, like 11 moments or 12 moments.
I'm not saying they need to re-sign him. I'm just saying Chris Moore was fine last year.
Chris Moore was fine, but like should be re-signed, need to re-sign Chris Moore. No, you can find a special teams wide receiver. Again, if it's a choice between Chris Moore and NWI, then NWI is a significantly more reliable player than was Chris Moore on both sides of things. Chris Moore, a special teams player at this stage of his career, for sure. But no, need to be re-signed or should be re-signed? I don't think so. Coming up next, Vols at the Combine and a huge win for the basketball team in Alabama over the weekend. We'll talk about both of those things. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Big week last week in Indianapolis. The NFL Combine officially in the books. Was a great one, a fun one. Learned a lot. Certainly going to provide context for us moving forward into the next couple of weeks and months. How did the University of Tennessee participants do? That's what we're going to focus in on right now. Shocking, Lucas, that Joe Milton was one of the most celebrated prospects in Indianapolis through the workouts this week. Do you see the video that Lance Zierlein of the NFL Network got of him from behind Milton as he's ripping off that 68 air yard, 68 yards through the air completion down the field? He turns around. He blows off the smoke from his finger guns, puts it back in the holster, whips around as the ball's completed. Mwah, chef's kiss. Perfect.
It is crazy how effortless, like a flick of the wrist. He barely even steps into the throw.
No, he's damn near flat-footed. It's crazy. Now, the flat-footed part is part of your concern. And it was arguably not even the most impressive thing that a former Vol player did at the Combine this week, because Jalen Wright in a class of running backs that doesn't have the top echelon, right? I don't know that we're going to see a first-round running back this year. Last year we had two, Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs. This year there's not really that kind of player. Jalen Wright, I don't know that he's going to be the first running back taken, but he could certainly make a case for it. The tape is there, and the athletic traits that you saw play itself out at the Combine certainly lent itself to that effort. So for him, physical attributes were great. 40-yard dash, 4.44 in the 40 on his first attempt. Considerably better on his second attempt. His unofficial time on the second round was 4.38. He measured in 5'10", just a little north of 5'10", 210 pounds, vert of 38 inches. And then the long jump, or excuse me, the broad jump is the thing that really caught everybody's attention, because it was the second best broad jump for a running back recorded, 11 foot 2 inches at the Combine. Best recording of the day for sure among running backs. And, not second best, fourth best overall from all draft prospects this year at the Combine. Really, really impressive by Jalen Wright.
You mentioned his broad jump?
Mm-hmm, sure did. You were fielding phone calls. That was not just Lucas ignoring me this time.
This time.
Yes. But yeah, I mean, Kamal Hadden didn't really jump off the screen or jump off the page in the drills, which I think was probably relative to expect. He's going to have to cut his teeth on special teams and carve out his career in the league that way, first and foremost, and then secondarily as a defensive back. Between Milton and Wright, who do you think did themselves the most good at the Combine? Because I would definitely argue Jalen Wright.
I would argue Jalen Wright. And Jalen Wright also has more opportunity for upward mobility,
sure,
just due to the nature of the running back class versus the quarterback class. People that study Joe Milton understand Joe Milton and who he is as a prospect. So if you're blown away by his arm talent and by the what was the velocity on the mile, like 60,
I need to find it.
70-something mile per hour throw.
Just ripping it through somebody's chest.
Crazy, yeah, like a 5-yard pass in the flat.
The 5-yard passes are the problem, yeah.
Break every finger in a running back's hand.
Can you imagine some poor running back just runs a Texas route and just gets smoked in the head by a Joe Milton pass, gets concussed.
Wherever he lands, some poor UDFA at like rookie minicamp is just going to break every bone in his finger. But
that on a swivel for real.
Yeah, the answer would be Jalen Wright. The question I have is, of these three, Wright, Milton, Hadden, if we had to pin most likely to land on the Titans, who would get it?
Oh.
Hadden, right? If they were to take like a late flyer, even a UDFA,
because he's not going to be
on
there.
A corner.
Wright is not going to be there in the fourth.
And you don't see the Titans taking a running back in the first with one of their first 3 picks. Or they don't have a third
pick. That's what I'm saying. Like he's definitely a day 2 pick, Jalen Wright, but they only have right now. We'll see what happens, but they only have the second round pick right now on day 2 of the draft. Yeah, I can't imagine a situation in which they would end up with Milton or Wright.
Yeah, tough to envision. And does Wright even really fit the mold of a running back that you think about as far as a complement to Tyjae Spears?
I don't know. Does it have to be a compliment to Tajay Spears, or can it just be another good running back? Like, I don't.
Sure.
I don't get caught up like, because you want to do the thunder and lightning thing. You want to do the what's the
smash and dash.
Smash and dash, yeah. So something like that. It doesn't. Why not smash and smash or dash and dash? Like I don't understand the need in today's NFL for. You would like a goal line presence. You would like some kind of Derrick Henry-ish figure to be able to punch it in short yardage situations or convert in short yardage situations. But Lucas, we're at a league high for quarterback sneaks in the NFL. The tush push is only going to exacerbate that. I think that the quarterback sneak has almost helped do away with the big power quadzilla A.J. Dillon type of goal line short yardage back, because the quarterback sneak is the more effective play there.
So, yeah, the answer would be, if anyone were to land on the Titans, Kamal Hadden. Just if it's just a late flyer on a corner.
Football Fred in the F&M Bank chat says, you need variety on your team. That is absolutely necessary. Okay, sure. But like, what's my guy's name from Michigan? Didn't play last year. Haskins.
Dwayne Haskins.
No.
Or, Hassan Haskins.
No, not Dwayne. Famously not Dwayne Haskins. Hassan Haskins. Hassan Haskins. Okay, there's your variety. I'd be down for another Tajay Spears type. Go get him. He's a 3-down running back. I want another 3-down running back. Now, maybe you don't get another 3-down running back. You don't necessarily need another 3-down running back. You have the luxury of getting to choose. But the idea that you need somebody, I won't say completely different from Tajay Spears, but that has a significant difference to the skill set that Tajay Spears brings doesn't compute to me. Just get 2 good running backs.
Jeremy on the F&M Bank chat says, sign Milton and make him your exclusive Hail Mary guy.
Yeah, but what happens when he overthrows it?
Overthrows a Hail Mary from the 20.
10 yards beyond the end zone, right? It hits some poor kid out in the stands.
He's rearing up, standing on his own 5, and it hits a kid in the 200 level.
Oh, God help him if he rears back. Right now, he's just throwing them flat-footed. No.
Whose roster spot would be lost to having a quarterback on the field just to be the Hail Mary guy?
Probably anybody who would be playing fullback / H-back tight end for the Titans this year, right? You don't need them. Just get the Hail Mary specialist. Goodness. So as we expected, Joe Milton performed well at the Combine. I think that we all had high expectations for Jalen Wright. I would still say that he exceeded my expectations athletically based on what he was able to improve, and him making that substantial of a jump from his first 40 time to his second 40 time was really, really well done by him.
He definitely feels like the running back moving the quickest up the board. Like as far as how he was viewed pre-draft process to how he's being talked about now.
Okay. So who was the top running back? Corum? Because it's not. Blake Corum he's significantly smaller than I realized. And with that kind of mileage, that kind of just brutal style of play from Michigan, and him not being Derrick Henry sized, Blake Corum is not the top running back in this class.
Well, there's Jonathan Brooks,
yeah,
out of Texas,
who most people would make the argument for being the top back.
Probably. Back-to-back years with Texas having the top back.
So for that, we'll see what happens with Kamal Hadden, but Jalen Wright, and we'll await the pro days, of course, that are right around the corner. They all start next week.
Trey Benson also impressed in the 42, the Florida State back.
Wright, though, had the second best on his second unofficial attempt. It was the second best for the running back group. I'm going to butcher the Louisville back's last name.
Go for it.
Garendo?
Sure.
He ran a 4.33. Now to the basketball. I thought that it was going to be, we talked about this. You're going to have to outscore Alabama. On the road, in Tuscaloosa, they had a star-studded lineup in attendance. You see that? It wasn't just Caleb DeBoer in the stands. It was Saban.
Excuse me? Who?
Caleb. Or Kalen, rather. Not Caleb. Sorry.
Is that his twin brother?
I mean, I don't know.
Is that Kalen's evil twin brother?
I'm still not convinced that the guy coached at Indiana for as long as you said that he did. I'm still confused on Michael Penix playing for Indiana and all of a sudden being a first round or potentially a first round draft pick. Either way. Caleb DeBoer in the house with Nick Saban. They had a bunch of people in attendance, and this was a huge game on ESPN. Primetime, Saturday night, and Rick Barnes again devises the best possible game plan, and you don't just do it on the strength of Dalton Knecht and his skill set, though obviously he was very important to this. Zakai Ziegler, player of the game?
Oh, yeah. Zakai was well, I don't know. It's between he and Jemai Mashak. Zakai's stats are going to jump off the page.
Performance.
My goodness. I mean, Rick Barnes said one of the best, maybe the best of his Tennessee career. And yes, you got to outscore Alabama, and Tennessee obviously did, but they also kind of shut down Alabama in the second half, holding them to 33 points.
And that's the thing that if you read Mike Wilson of the Knoxville News Sentinel, that he pointed out that because Alabama coming into the game, Lucas, do you know how many times, I think I asked you this on Friday, I don't know if you remember, how many times that they scored 100 points this season?
Yeah, it was 8 or 9.
9 times, and 3 in a row to start the regular season before they got into conference play, really. Alabama has just been crushing people offensively. Defensively, they're still a bit of a question.
They're bad. They're bad defensively.
But to see the way that Rick Barnes devised that game plan, made the necessary adjustments, as you said, they got good performances from Mashak. Josiah Jordan-James, I thought, had a solid night with a double-double. They had 7 Tennessee players score at least 8 points en route to this performance, and they did well to hold Alabama down across the board. Jemai Mashak, though, was a difference maker. Maybe not the player of the game, but definitely a difference maker.
Yeah, I mean, his stats are not going to jump off. Like 8 points, 4 assists, 6 rebounds, but 2 for 2 from 3. I think the sequence where, in the second half, where Jemai hits the corner 3, immediately gets back on defense, intercepts a half-court pass as he's falling out of bounds, throws it back into Zakai Ziegler, who gets it down to Adu for an and one. A 6-point burst by Tennessee, orchestrated by Jemai Mashak, completely changed the game. It was all Tennessee from there on out.
So let's hear from Rick Barnes on the performance of Jemai Mashak, who was indisputably a difference maker in this 81-74 win on the road at Coleman Coliseum on Saturday night. Oh, I thought I bought you enough time.
I thought you did too.
Okay, Rick Barnes. Still no?
I don't have it. I thought I had it, and I don't have it. I could have sworn I saved this.
What, Lucas, why is it in the grid if I can't throw to it?
I put it in the grid.
It specifically says there, we're going to talk about UT being one step closer to the SEC title and beating Alabama on the road, and we have Rick Barnes' audio. Do we have it now?
Because, his toughness, his defense, what he's elite at, when he does what he's really good at, and tonight I thought offensively, I could almost say I thought he might have played his best game he's played since he's been at Tennessee, because he did the things we wanted him to do. We told him, if you're open, we want you to shoot the ball. The 3, he knows when he made some great plays, driving to the lane, creating traffic, getting them to suck in and kick it out. His defensive plays, he had a rebound, I think, and then he ran one down at half court, kept it alive. But he and Santi and Joe, their hands are elite, all 3 of those guys. And Zakai, actually, they have elite hands. But in some ways, I was watching him tonight, and I thought he was as locked in and played as close to what we need him to do as since he's been here. But he is defensively, it's hard to keep him off the floor. And when he's that smooth and knows what he needs to do on the offensive end, he's a real weapon for us.
So he finishes the night, 8.6 rebounds, corner 3 for Jemai Mashak before the first half ended. And they needed Mashak, they needed Zakai Ziegler, because as we've talked about, when you can't rely on Dalton Knecht having an otherworldly performance, and he doesn't have to have 39 every night for this to be a competent team, but if he struggles the way that he certainly struggled throughout the course of this game, got into foul trouble early, had a critical 2-pointer with, I don't know, like 2.5 minutes left in the game to help them keep in the driver's seat and complete that comeback, because Alabama, if I remember correctly, was leading at the half.
Yes. Yeah, Bama was up 2 at the half, and because they had just come back on. Tennessee was up double digits. Bama went on a big run to end the first half and went into the break with the lead. And Dalton ends the night 1 for 7 from 3. It was not his best night shooting.
So he was 1 for 7, as you said, 5 for 14. 1 for 7 on threes, 5 for 14 total from the floor. This is the kind of thing that I've had questions about with every Rick Barnes team, though. Can you survive the offensive drought? Can you survive the offensive drought on the road? Can you survive the offensive drought against a team that you know can score at will on nearly every possession? This is exactly what this Tennessee team did in convincing fashion that make you feel and reaffirm, I think, the belief that we've had consistently that this is one of the deepest teams, if not the deepest team that Rick Barnes has had at Tennessee, and that if Connect goes cold for a little while, or as you understand, every team, both in what remains of the regular season, conference tournament coming up here next week, right? That's next week that we're down at Bridgestone Arena.
South Carolina on the road Wednesday for Tennessee, Kentucky at home, and then on Saturday, and then SEC tournament time.
So this is the kind of performance that further entrenches you in all of those beliefs, that helps kind of tamper some of those BVS vibes around Rick Barnes, because there are BVS vibes around Rick Barnes once you start to get into postseason play, and that's right around the corner. But they can, if I'm not mistaken, they can clinch a share of the SEC title if they beat South Carolina next on the road. Yes?
I believe that's the case. At least a share of the SEC the SEC regular season title with the win against South Carolina. Yes, that is correct. So Wednesday, that game's Wednesday. 6 o'clock is the tip that you can hear here on the Zone. And obviously winning out for the rest of the regular season would get you the SEC regular season title and the 1 seed in the SEC tournament, and put you in very prime position to be a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament for the first time in program history.
Oh, it's March. It makes me so happy. This is my favorite time of year.
Oh, yeah. I'm
favorite
excited,
time
man.
of year.
We always constantly talk about Connect is the thing Tennessee hasn't had since Grant, right? The alpha scorer, the guy that can take over a game. Well, not just since Grant, just period, since Chris Lofton, since Allen Houston. But Jonas Adu. Tennessee has not had a Jonas Adu. They have not had a presence like that in the post since those Grant teams when, yes, you could funnel your offense through Grant, and they have not had that length since Kyle Alexander was down there. They tried it with Brandon Huntley Hatfield, the 5-star who came in, and now he's playing at Louisville, who's just terrible.
Dreadful.
I mean, it's crazy to see the shambles that program's in. John Fulkerson was asked to play the 5. They've kind of cycled through. And Jonas Adu has had a fantastic season. He was Tennessee's best source of offense early in this game. He finishes with 12 and 7. But that's another aspect of this team that they have not had since that peak of the Barnes era, Grant and Admiral. That presence down low, the ability to play inside out in that length with Jonas Adu around the rim.
It is March officially, and it's time to start filling out brackets. Do you make a bracket?
Of course I make a bracket.
I don't make a bracket.
What?
Yeah, I don't make a bracket. It's more fun to watch it. Well, I like watching it more without a bracket, personally.
Why?
Because I don't have any investment in it.
Not having investment enhances your viewing experience?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense to me.
I can't be disappointed when something goes wrong, when something goes awry, when the Final Four that I've picked doesn't make it out of the Sweet 16.
Sure, but that's part of the whole fun. It's like the upsets are fun because if you call it, it's a great feeling. And if not, then you just watched a huge upset. Like I don't get upset if my bracket gets busted because 15 seed Furman or whoever knocks off 2 seed Blue Blood.
I get upset. I don't want to see the mighty Paladins. I don't want to see the Dins advance. Okay, I'm not in it for Furman.
Wait, so you're that guy that roots against upsets?
No.
In March Madness?
I didn't say that. I'm just saying if I made a bracket and I didn't pick the upset, then yes, I'm rooting against the upsets, absolutely. If you do make a bracket, unlike me, it is time to start filling them out. You can register today for 1045 The Zone's $1 Million Bracket Challenge, sponsored by Scoreboard Bar and Grill, for a chance to win $1 million. Plus, we are giving away a pair of tickets to see Chris Stapleton at Bridgestone Arena for the best local bracket score. How about that? That's a nice little flair. It's a local contest, so sign up at 1045thezone.com for more details. The $1 Million Bracket Challenge at 1045thezone.com. Speaking of college hoops, a huge moment in the history of the sport. We'll talk about Caitlin Clark passing Pete Maravich for the all-time leading scorer in college basketball, men's or women's, coming up next.
Life is busy. We could all use some extra time in our day, which is exactly why Two Rivers Ford offers mobile service. We'll bring the service to your driveway at no additional charge. Oil changes, brakes, batteries, the certified technicians at Two Rivers will perform basic maintenance on your vehicle wherever you are, so you'll have more time for moments like this. Schedule your mobile service appointment by scanning the QR code or calling Two Rivers Ford today.
Who's your favorite college athlete of all time? Because I think mine might be Caitlin Clark. There have been a lot of good basketball players to play for my alma mater, Indiana. There's a lot of great college football players out there, all manner of different sports across history that you have to choose from. And if you got an issue with mine, that's all good. But as far as entertainment value, history, gravitas, what she's done for her individual sport, I don't know that I have a person higher on the list of all-time favorite college athletes than the woman that just passed Pete Maravich to set the all-time NCAA scoring record, men's or women's. This is a huge, huge game against Ohio State that Iowa was able to win. She came into the game just 17 points short of the one they call Pistol Pete's record, 3,667. That record has stood since 1970. And she got it with a free throw, tied it with a free throw, and then nailed the other free throw to break the record. Gus Johnson's call was great of the tie and of the record. And then Iowa going on to survive Ohio State in that game in a big spot. She's already declared for the WNBA draft. This was a tweet that got a lot of traction. And anytime you talk about women's sports, you're going to get some pushback on this, even though I think it's stupid. Paul Hembekides, you know who that is?
Nope.
He's like the lead ESPN. He's basically the lead nerd for ESPN Stats and Info, is how I would describe Henbo. Longtime producer at ESPN. This is the tweet after she broke the record. Relative to her peers, Caitlin Clark is the best athlete in America right now. All right, so immediately you got some meathead screaming, no, can't have the best athlete in America be a woman.
Put her in the octagon with LeBron. See what happens. That's the kind of responses you get.
So that you can hear the knuckles dragging on their way to respond to this tweet, okay? For sure. But let him finish, all right? Relative to her peers, Caitlin Clark is the best athlete in America right now. Caitlin Clark 1, two-way Shohei Ohtani 2, 3 Mahomes, Nikola Jokic 4, Connor McDavid 5. And she has done more to grow her sport than the rest of, and this is his top 5 as he deems it, but he says she has done more to grow her sport than the rest of my top 5 combined. Is anybody going to argue that Caitlin Clark has not done more for women's college basketball than Shohei Ohtani has done for the MLB, than Mahomes has done for the NFL, that Jokic has done for the... Jokic doesn't even want to be in the NBA. Jokic is miserable even when he wins the championship. There could not be a less disinterested or a more disinterested superstar than Nikola Jokic, which, by the way, delights me.
Would rather be with his horses.
He really would. He just doesn't want anything to do with any of it.
Just punching a clock. That's what it feels like with Jokic.
It's great.
Just there because he has to be.
Oh, my God. Or Connor McDavid. And all of these are very, very special players, right? We've not seen anything in the history of baseball like Shohei Ohtani. And he's not the most marketable star, and he's doing it in his second language. Hell, it may be his third for Shohei. So he's already working uphill against that a little bit.
Just got married and had to drop it with the media. That he just got married. And the way he put it, that, yep, she's just a normal Japanese woman. Like, he's not posting anything about it. He's just, I got married recently.
I got married.
Love that.
Just some courthouse in Anaheim that Shohei Ohtani's getting married in. Anyway, so is Caitlin Clark, relative to her peers, the best athlete in America? You put her in a class of 2 as far as I don't know. It's a really tough decision because immediately I didn't read the tweet thoroughly upon first reading because I started to do the thing where I said, well, she hasn't done more to grow her sport than Pat Summitt, but that's not the context of the tweet. But she's right up there with the greatest figures in the history of women's college basketball. She's arguably the best player. I mean, she, by scoring, she is the best player in the history of women's college basketball, and you can put her up there with any of the great basketball players, men's or women's, regardless of sex. I can't describe what a privilege it's been to watch her compete in her sport, and I hate that she's getting ready to take a pay cut to go to the pros. She's going to have endorsement deals. She'll still be a nationally recognized figure. and she's doing so much good for the sport of women's college basketball. But I was honestly shocked to see her declare.
Well, why do we think she's taking a pay cut?
There's just not nearly as much money to be made at the professional level in women's basketball as she stands to make purely off her marketing power. I don't want to say there's not anybody who's close to her in terms of marketability.
But I don't understand why her marketing power is suddenly going to go away.
No, it's not.
Like, that's what she's just adding a WNBA salary to it. Like, this idea that she's going to make less money next year than she is now doesn't make sense to me.
Well, she is going to make it's going to be how should I describe it? A temporary pay cut, because she's got the State Farm money, right? She's going to just continue to grow her endorsement profile. But I will say, Lucas, it depends on where she lands. I mean, it does. I don't know who has the first pick in the WNBA draft.
Indiana, I think. The Fever.
Oh, I mean, I'm about to be a Fever fan. Hell yeah. This is why I was pushing so hard for Nashville. I'd rather have WNBA than an MLB team. Get in the draft before Caitlin Clark declares. Do it. But it is her going to Indiana does matter. Now you would say, well, she's at Iowa right now, you idiot. What do you mean? But there are less opportunities for her to capitalize at the WNBA level. She will still be America's most marketable WNBA player the minute that she steps foot in the league. She is greater than Sabrina Ionescu was coming out, and she was the most electric basketball player in her year, men's or women's, coming out. This is a different level of superstar. This is the person getting the Patrick Mahomes State Farm commercials and that kind of attention. But her going to a place like Indiana, I do think diminishes her earnings potential. If she would stay in these primetime games on ESPN where she's as big a draw as any team in the men's game right now.
I was going to ask, when's the last time the men's game had an individual player that people were showing up in droves like this to see? Like
Zion?
Showing up to see, Zion. Yeah. That's the answer.
That's the last one that I can think of. How long? It's been a couple of years for Zion.
It's been about like 4?
Zion and Ja have been in the league.
5 years.
Yeah, because they're coming up on. Have they already been paid second contracts? Zion and Ja? I don't know off the top of my head.
But yeah, Zion's the answer.
Yeah, I would say Zion. It's a pretty significant thing, and she's done a world of good for her sport and continues to be just a great representative for the sport of college basketball. But I do hate the idea of her hurting her market potential by getting drafted into the pros. Coming up next, a tragic loss in the world of the NFL. We're going to talk about the combine prospect reviews that you need to know for the Titans' needs, and a really cool event that Lucas was a part of that's raising funds for a really good cause. I'm Buck Rising. The final hour is next.
It is 12:01. Good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone studios. Breaking news this morning in the NFL, the Tampa Bay Bucks and wide receiver Mike Evans have agreed to a 2-year, $52 million contract that includes $35 million in guaranteed money. Evans was set to be a free agent at the start of the new league year. He has gone over 1,000 yards receiving for the Bucks every year of his career since coming into the league in 2014. NFL Scouting Combine wrapped up in Indianapolis this past weekend. A new 40-time record was set by Texas wide receiver Xavier Worthy with a 4.21. It was an impressive outing for Tennessee running back Jalen Wright with a 4.38 40 and an 11.2 broad jump, the second longest recorded by a running back in combine history. Tragic news in the NFL on Sunday morning. The family of longtime ESPN NFL reporter Chris Mortensen announced that he passed away at the age of 72. The award-winning reporter had been battling cancer since 2016. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Little breaking news to start the noon hour. As expected, longtime Philadelphia Eagles center, Super Bowl champion Jason Kelce has officially announced his retirement. Why that matters to you here in Middle Tennessee, not just because Jason Kelce is great, not just because he's going to be drunk at a lot more Chiefs games, it sounds like, but I do think that makes the free agency discussion pretty interesting. Centers on the market, there are a few, and the Titans should be bidding for the best of them at the top of the free agent class. I'd be curious to see what Philadelphia does with a veteran quarterback as opposed to a younger player, but something to keep in mind. We'll talk about combine prospects, wide receivers, offensive linemen, and running backs here in just a little bit, but I do want to start the noon hour paying tribute to a member of basically everybody's lives for the last, I don't know, 30 or 40 years of football coverage. It's not just that Peter King retired, and with him, Lucas, it feels like a little bit of that era of sports writer is gone as I look at the carcass of Sports Illustrated, or what's remaining of it, at a time where Sports Illustrated used to be bigger than ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. Peter King announced his retirement here recently, and then Chris Mortensen passed away over the weekend, 72 years old, which is crazy because he was just tweeting at the Combine. So I don't know. He's obviously dealt with a long battle with cancer. And Adam Schefter, his colleague, who basically Mort kind of gave birth to that generation of NFL insiders, nationally televised NFL insiders, been at ESPN since 1991. He's been a contributor for them for so long. He is one of the biggest newsbreakers, one of the most impactful people in sports media that ever there has been. And it's not that many people that we would take a moment out of the radio show to pay tribute to. But ESPN put together an incredible tribute to him. And frankly, I'd like to play the entire thing here. This is ESPN's tribute to Chris Mortensen, who passed away yesterday at the age of 72.
It's easier to ask someone about dying once he is broken free of its grasp, as my friend, my mentor, and my on-air partner, Chris Mortensen, once did. After Mort was diagnosed with stage 4 throat cancer in 2015, before fending it off in 2017, he was asked what he would think and what would go through his mind if he knew he were dying, as he almost did. Mort said he would think of all his incredible life experiences, how blessed he has been, even with the heartbreaks along the way. He also added he would be sad to say goodbye to the people he loved, but he would be going to a place of glory. Chris Mortensen was born in Torrance, California, outside of Los Angeles in 1951. He served 2 years in the Army during the Vietnam War, married his wife Mickey and raised his son Alex, and established himself as one of the greatest reporters of all time while being an even better man. Mort began his reporting career at his hometown newspaper, the Daily Breeze, before moving on to cover the Braves, Falcons, and the NFL at the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. In 1990, he was among the first reporters hired for the all-sports newspaper, The National. Mort arrived at ESPN in 1991. He left behind the newspaper business to work on the NFL studio shows, SportsCenter, the NFL Draft, and ESPN Radio. He was the reporter who could get to the bottom of the most difficult stories, yet still be the biggest prankster at the network, capable of making any and everyone laugh.
Loosen up my shot and give me a little more headroom. We do not like a lot of face of me on. No, that's actually in my contract, by the way.
Mort was the one who knowingly and wittingly set up former Colts executive Bill Tobin for one of the most memorable sound bites in NFL draft history.
You know, we got a guy up there. Who in the hell is Mel Kiper, in a way?
Mort impacted everyone he knew, often in ways he didn't even realize. A short time after Mort revealed he was battling stage 4 throat cancer and taking leave from ESPN, then Cardinals wide receiver Larry Fitzgerald scored a game-winning touchdown that advanced Arizona to the NFC Championship game. In the heady moments of his heroics, Fitzgerald still thought enough to send out a message to the man who had been on so many people's minds.
Mort, I want to tell you, man, we're thinking about you. And fight, baby. Love you, Mort.
Everyone did. After Mort checked into the hospital in 2016, Peyton Manning delivered the scoop of his retirement for Mort to report while he battled cancer. The Mannings had known and trusted Mort for so long that there was no other consideration for giving that story to anyone other than Mort. And yet, while he made his living reporting on some of the toughest guys in sports, nobody was any tougher than Mort himself. Mort battled back from a veritable death sentence. He endured intensive radiation treatments. He lost his hair, weight, but never his sense of humor, spirit, nor fight. He often showed up on TV when he was too tired and worn down to do it. It went on for years, like his own fight to regain his health. And yet, through the years, Mort remained ESPN's reporting conscience, its most senior and trusted voice. He had seen so much, knew so many, and established himself not only as one of the greatest football reporters in history, but one of the greatest sports reporters in history. It is just one reason why so many turned to him for guidance on stories that mattered, because he did. Mort was a pioneer in this business, one of the first reporters to transition from newspapers to TV, making it possible for so many others to follow a similar path. Fred Gaudelli, the legendary producer of NFL games, once said that if there were a Mount Rushmore for ESPN, Mort unquestionably would be on it. Mort was nominated for 2 Pulitzer Prizes, wrote 2 highly acclaimed books, won 18 journalism awards, was selected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame as the Dick McCann Award winner in 2016, and became the only sports writer other than the great Red Smith to win the George Polk Award for reporting. But Mort really didn't need any awards to validate his greatness. Other aspects of a life well lived already accomplished that. And here's the truth about a man we loved as much as we respected. If someone's life makes you sad when it ends, it's because it was wonderful when it happened. Mort's truly was. He lived a life that touched so many others, full of faith and purpose, all leading to his ultimate and final accomplishment. Chris Mortensen is headed to his place of glory.
That's a beautiful tribute from Adam Schefter and so many people that worked with Chris Mortensen at ESPN, passing away at the age of 72 yesterday. Stage 4 throat cancer is ultimately what he fought and beat the first time around, and certainly to have a recurrence and a situation and where it just became too much for him to overcome. I can't imagine what his family is dealing with. So many people at the NFL and throughout the course of the league and just sports who have come in contact with him. I know somebody in the YouTube chat just said that Mort did, to a communications class while they were in college, and gave them one of the best quotes that he's ever gotten. In this business, hard work will get you stories. Humility will help you tell them. They don't make people like that. They don't make reporters like that. And it just, with Peter King retiring and John Clayton already having passed, and now Mortensen, man, it just feels like, I don't know, you're losing an era of storytelling and sports journalism that I don't know that you can reclaim in what the atmosphere, as fractured as it is and as casual as it is and as poorly as journalism gets treated. It sucks. And, not ever having come into contact with him personally or anything like that, anybody who works in this business has Chris Mortensen and those kind of people to thank for the jobs that we all do. So we wanted to pay tribute to an unbelievable person and an unbelievable reporter and somebody who's been a part of our lives for, certainly your and I entire lifetime.
Vinny Coladonato is the associate producer that produced that piece.
Awesome.
Voiced by Adam Schefter. It is always telling when someone as legendary as Mortensen for his career achievements passes away, and the first thing that everybody says about him is it's hardly any mention about his career and Pulitzer Prize winning. It's just who he was as a person. And that was universally the reaction when Mortensen passed away.
So we bring this up at the start of the biggest hour that we have today because Lucas was a part of an incredible event last night. Now, what LLS is, Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, is blood cancer, looking for research, providing funds to help continue to research cures and treatments for various types of blood cancer. Chris Mortensen passed of throat cancer, Lucas, but it does kind of lend itself to the cause that you were a part of, where so many great high school kids raised money last night, and something that I'm getting ready to undertake with the Visionaries of the Year campaign for LLS, which I'm really looking forward to helping raise money and getting ready to ask you guys to help me out as well as we look for ways to develop cures and treatment for people who are dealing with this and families who are affected.
Yeah, your campaign's kind of the next phase, right? As last night was the 2024 Nashville Student Visionaries of the Year grand finale celebration. It was at WeHo Club at Geodis Park. Christina Ryan, who does an incredible job with LLS, organized it. I was lucky enough to get asked to come and MC it again. And Reed Besh, your former producer at A to Z Sports, was there. He told his story. Reed was awesome. It was great to see him. And in the end, I cannot tell you, I'm not going to tell you the teams. So many schools represented it, MBA and Page and CPA and the list goes on, Father Ryan, Ensworth. I'm not going to tell you the team that won and the total that they raised because now they go into a national competition. But I can tell you the total amount that was raised by these student candidate teams, high school kids doing this. So this is my challenge to you, Buck. Can you match $1,173,445.80?
Oh, my God.
Raised by high school students in this community.
Just locally.
For LLS, yes.
Awesome. Awesome stuff. Congratulations to them, man. So just for context, the person who has raised the most out of the local Nashville LLS Visionaries of the Year campaign was Jonathan Hutton, who formerly of the Midday 180. Hutton, I think cleared north of $140,000 for his campaign individually. Hutton to not even get a tenth of what the high schoolers were able to raise.
Last year they went over $800,000.
Wow.
And that was like, oh my God, record-setting year. To break $1 million is insanity. Insanity.
Well, it's not a challenge to me, Lucas. It's a challenge to the audience because we need your help here. This is something that's going to go through May. The Install Live show is going to be a big part of this. This is going to be our primary event to help fundraise. We're going to have QR codes for everybody who attends to be able to donate. But if you and Lucas will drop the link in the Zone TV chat, I'll put it out on my social media. We are raising funds for LLS for them to at least contribute to what the high schoolers have been able to put together. I can't promise you $1 million just on my abilities alone, but I know how giving this community is. I've experienced it myself so many different times, whether it's through tornado relief when you guys showed up and show out to help not just my community, but so many other communities who were affected in the 2020 tornado, whether that's what we were able to do last year for Home Street Home and the church at Mount Carmel and their free youth summer camp programs. You guys continue to give over and over and over again in ways that, I mean, make me emotional. And Lucas, it's hard for me to get emotional on a regular basis, but what Middle Tennessee does every time there is a cause like this in front of them and the way that they rally together for support, and especially for something as hideous and insidious as cancer is, because everybody in some form or fashion, whether you personally have dealt with it, whether you have somebody in your family who has dealt with it, whether you lost a family member, a friend, or a loved one, or known somebody who has to cancer, it impacts us all in some way, shape, or form. And so we're grateful for any support that you might be able to help give the people who are out here doing the hard work, which is creating and researching and finding different treatment paths for blood cancers, the way that LLS has been able to fund year in and year out. And it's my great privilege to be a part of the campaign this year, and looking forward to seeing what we're able to do. I don't think I can hold a candle to the high schoolers, though. I think they got me pretty good.
Real quick, because we're up against it. When people are buying tickets to the install with Greg Cosell at the Analog May 3rd, they can get regular tickets and VIP, right? What's the difference?
Yeah, so regular tickets, $25 just to get into the door. Just to get into the door at the Analog Hutton Hotel. The VIP ticket comes with a food option. Dinner will be served in the hour before. There's essentially a happy hour with Greg and I before we start the live show at 7. This is Friday, May the 3rd, as Lucas said. The VIP ticket comes with the dinner included, your ticket to the event, and drink tickets that are also included. There is a full bar, so if you purchase the $25 ticket, you can still buy beverages throughout the course of the show, but your VIP ticket does come with drink tickets included and, of course, dinner. And the primary reason, not just to break down the Titans free agency class, not just to have Greg Cosell of NFL Films work his way through your questions and breaking down tape in real time of your draft class, but to raise money for this great cause. And we're going to have a couple of different events like this. The install is going to be the main one. But yeah, anything that you guys are willing to give, like I said, we'll have QR codes at your tables. We'll have QR codes on the screens. I'm pretty sure Rich Ferris has put a QR code banner on the live stream for the show. So if you're watching at home and things like that, we'd be happy to take your contributions there too. And like I said, I'll put out the link on my personal social media here in just a second.
1045thezone.com. Front and center, you can find a portal to get tickets.
Excellent. So 1045thezone.com for more information. Great job by the high school campaign, though, of Middle Tennessee for the LLS High School Visionaries of the Year. And, I'm going to give it my best effort, but I'm pretty sure they got me. I'm willing to accept defeat in that element. I'm not willing to accept defeat outright. We're going to raise a lot of money, and we're going to do great things, and we're going to help provide some hope. But, high schoolers got me pretty good. 615-737-1045 is the number if you want to jump in on the conversation. We will recap the combine prospects that you need to know coming out of Indianapolis last week. I'm Buck Rising. It's 1045 The Zone. Jason Kelsey's retirement press conference ongoing right now. How lineman is it that the man would show up in a cutoff Eagles, looks like a practice type of shirt, practice pack type of shirt? Apparently he's got flip-flops on too. Big chillin'.
He is very emotional.
Oh, are you listening to it?
I've caught a bunch of clips that have come out talking about getting drafted by Andy Reid and then Andy drafting Travis Kelce 2 years later. And, I mean, he broke down almost before even starting the official presser. He is very, very emotional.
Understandably so. Gets to retire. Maybe not at the top because he wasn't a champion this year, but having won a ring, seeing his brother win as many as he has, getting to do that in the same league as his brother, it's got to be a really, really cool experience. So a cool moment for one of the best to ever do it. As one retires, a whole new crop of NFL players is getting ready to enter the league and to try and make their own impact. The record for first-round wide receivers, Lucas, do you know the number?
Oh, when was it set? Give me that hint.
Oh, actually, 2004.
2004. Who was drafted in 2004?
I'm gonna have to.
Would that have been like Larry Fitzgerald year?
I'm gonna have to go back and look up the actual names.
I'm gonna say 8.
7. 7 in 2004 is the record for the number of first-round wide receivers taken. This year, I don't know if 7 are going to go, but a lot of people talking about the wide receiver class prior to the combine, and certainly the athletic display that was put on at the combine is going to help solidify a lot of these guys and bump a couple up from day 2 into day 1.
04 was Larry Fitzgerald, Roy Williams, Reggie Williams, Lee Evans, the Wisconsin receiver that went to Buffalo, Michael Clayton, picked by the Bucks, and Michael Jenkins, as well as Rashawn Woods. So really, Woods was not a first-round pick. So, he was. He was the second to last. But either way, Larry Fitzgerald, the by far biggest name to come out of that.
By a mile. I mean, Lee Evans had a good career with Buffalo and Baltimore, right?
Yes.
So, I think famously had a drop pass that could have helped the Ravens get to a Super Bowl. Burt probably has less fond memories of Lee Evans. Either way.
Who did the Titans take in that draft?
Do you have it in front of you?
I don't think the Titans had a first-round pick.
In 2004?
Yeah.
Okay.
They traded it to Houston, who selected Jason Babin.
That was pretty good. They ended up signing Jason Babin and a much later State Titans legend.
Titans had Ben Troop, took Ben Troop, the tight end, in the second round that year. That was their first pick.
Titans legend Jason Babin. He had a couple of years here. Anyway. So, the record for first-round wide receivers is 7. I don't know that this year's class is going to break that or match it, but there are a lot of talented wide receivers in this group. The highlight, of course, was Xavier Worthy. He had the record-breaking 40-time 4.21 second 40. This is the audio of him running it and then the reaction afterwards, or just the reaction?
This is from the NFL Network broadcast of Worthy's 40.
Here it goes.
Oh! Oh, just that? Yeah. So that, of course, is Rich Eisen. Oh! And Daniel Jeremiah's laughter.
Just laughter, and then the crowd. There were a ton of fans there.
Well, this is why the NFL's moving it back, at least schedule-wise, because they're trying to turn it as much into media convention as they are, or football convention as they are fan-attended event. And there were a lot of fans there. And, of course, for the wide receivers, for the running backs, they've pivoted towards the weekend, so people would be able to attend and see this stuff.
How much do you think Worthy's stock went up just from that?
Significantly. He's Xavier Worthy from Texas. There are some drop issues there. He's got punt return ability, so something to keep in mind that will help his value.
Electric with the ball in his hands.
I think he would have been a fringe first-rounder to begin with. There has not been a player to break the 40 record that hasn't been selected as a first-round pick.
I'm almost upset that he did that because he was my draft crush throughout this process. The best thing about Xavier Worthy is that the speed translates, that he does it with pads on.
Yeah.
And he was someone I really liked as a potential day 2 option for the Titans, early second round. And I'm almost upset that he broke the record for the 40. because of how it'll improve his draft stock and maybe hurt the Titans' chances to scoop him up.
So Marvin Harrison Jr. didn't work out, didn't even show up for the media availability. Malik Neighbors, who we'll get to when we do Oh No tomorrow, because Titans fans who love Malik Neighbors, he does not love you the way, or at least he doesn't love your team the way that you love him, and we'll get to that tomorrow. Roma Dunze, who may not be able to pilot you to safety if a plane was to crash land, but can sure as hell be an prototypical X wide receiver at the next level. So those three are for sure going first round. I would put Brian Thomas Jr. in that mix, the other LSU wide receiver. I would also probably argue for, and I'm going to butcher his first name. I've done it. I've said it 6 different ways already, and Bert keeps correcting me. Adonai Mitchell. I think that's a first-round pick. And I'm more and more convinced that Ladd McConkey is going to go in the first. It depends on the team. It depends on the fit, so we'll see how the draft board breaks out. But I think that Ladd McConkey has the potential to be a first-round selection at wide receiver. There are some size concerns there, too. Keon Coleman was a big talking point as well. Had one of the worst 40 times, 4.62 among the wide receivers. But did you watch his gauntlet drill? It was the fastest gauntlet drill of any wide receiver, which is an important thing for people to keep in mind, because that is a more applicable drill to what it is that Keon Coleman is going to be doing on an NFL field, as opposed to just running in a straight line really, really fast.
Yeah, with no pads on.
With no pads on, right? Him running through the gauntlet drill, if you're unfamiliar with the gauntlet drill, they have the wide receivers, they have the players run the width of the field, not the length, but the width of the field, and you have a string of people throwing passes to them from either side as they work their way across the width of the field. Keon Coleman did it successfully with the fastest gauntlet time. He beat out Oregon's Troy Franklin, who I know Titans fans are very much interested in. 4.41 was Troy Franklin's time in the gauntlet drill. Puka Nacua is somebody who did that at a 4.57 pace last year. Or excuse me, the 40 with a 4.57 pace, and then still ended up being, right player, right fit, right time. It all worked out. He becomes a Rookie of the Year candidate for the Rams at the end of it all. So 7 first-round wide receivers, says somebody in the F&M Bank chat. I don't think so, but I'd argue for 6. I think 6 are possible.
So who would we be talking about with 6? Harrison?
I'm going Harrison, Neighbors, Odunze, Thomas, McConkey, Mitchell. That would be my 6. I think those are the players.
You don't see Keon Coleman drafted in the first round?
I would, if you made me, if you held me to it, I'd stay 6 and swap out Coleman for McConkey. But I think you could go either way on those. Again, it matters team and fit. Who ends up at the bottom of the or lower down in the wide receiver depth chart, and again, or depth chart, not depth chart, but order basically. And it depends when the wide receivers start going. This is why, when fans ask, well, what are the Titans going to do at 7? Well, okay, who's on the board? How does the board break in front of them? What's after them? Who are the teams picking around them? And how that impacts them? What are their free agency solutions that will take place in the next couple of weeks that we'll have more definitive answers on? All of this factors into who your team will ultimately end up taking at whatever pick you have.
But that's why I could see it getting up to that 7 range, because the run could be early. When you look at the top 10, how many of those teams have offensive-based needs?
All of them.
All of them.
All of them.
Carolina, Washington, New England, Arizona, Chargers, Giants, Titans, Falcons, Bears. We all expect them to go quarterback, receiver, O-line.
Mm-hmm.
One of those 3. Mm-hmm. And maybe a Brock Bowers in between.
But now Bowers.
And the Jets as well at 10.
Well, Bowers is kind of the wild card here, because he's the only first-round tight end that we expect.
Yeah.
And he didn't work out at the combine. He measured shorter, not much shorter. I think they had him on Georgia's website listed at 6'4". He came in at 6'3".
I don't think anyone had a more egregious misprint, for lack of a better term, than Xavier Legette, who I think was like 3 inches taller on the South Carolina website than he was at like the Senior Bowl.
You slide that SID an extra 100. Thanks. Good looking out. But Bowers is the wild card here because you could look at him. I mean, how many of the wide receivers of the 6 potentially first-round wide receivers that I just named, how many of them would you take Bowers over? Probably 4? 3 at least 3, right? So Bowers factoring into this because how does a team with offensive skill position needs view Brock Bowers? Because he can split out and be your X in an offense. How he's not a bad blocker. It's probably not his best skill set, but you can certainly do a variety of different things that make him an intriguing piece. But there's not a team in the top 10 that has an outright screaming tight end. But he's not an outright screaming tight end. He's a skill player. I would classify him as skill player before I would put him as a traditional tight end, right?
Yeah, we got to stop putting him in that positional value pigeonhole that is tight end.
I refuse. So it's going to be an interesting draft to see the way that it plays out. The good thing for you is that this draft class is chock full of your needs. All you need to do is not botch it. Easy enough, right? 615-737-1045. Last call for phone calls if you got them. We'll talk about the offensive line stuff tomorrow. Why don't we do that? Because we spent most of the time on wide receivers here, and I do think that there's a larger conversation to be had with the offensive line. It was a phenomenal day of testing for the offensive line, and a couple of injuries that are worth noting too, but we'll cover that ground tomorrow. There is a former Heisman Trophy winner that is threatening, if not promising, to boycott the Heisman ceremony. We'll do that, and your last call for phone calls, like I said, next. Now, I asked you yesterday what you were getting me for our anniversary. I'm still waiting.
I think you have the answer in front of you.
Well, this isn't from you. This is you putting your responsibilities in our relationship off, shocking to nobody. You're delegating your gift-giving responsibilities for our 3rd anniversary as a show. Now,
I handed it to you.
You did. You did physically deliver. For those of you watching on Zone TV, this is my favorite kind of tequila. Clase Azul. A big old bottle of it. Not that we've broken into it yet. It's the last segment, perhaps. You want to take a shot?
No. I got things to do.
Some Cumulus lawyer is going to be, no! Stop it!
I got things to do at 12:45 on a Monday.
Who gave him tequila? I don't. I got until 8 p.m. tonight, bud. Prime time's a long way away. But yes, many thanks to Dave and Burns, who is so sweet and thoughtful to regularly deliver food for Lucas and on an annual basis. What does he call it? The tequila bottle?
Oh, it's, let me read the text he sent. It was in honor of you not getting fired for a 3rd straight year.
Hell yeah. Big fan of that.
He texted me, he said, I'm here with the Buck Survives Another Year crown.
And the crown is a giant bottle of Reposado tequila with a little bell on it. Makes me happy. So thank you very much to Dave. And thank you to you guys for putting up with us for 3 years. Like I said, we haven't been fired yet. We'll keep you updated on the latest. Quickly, a news note from the weekend. Johnny Manziel, who was most recently spotted at Barstool Nashville, not this past weekend, but the previous weekend, apparently hanging around Music City, Johnny Football. He put out a tweet over the weekend saying that he was going to boycott the Heisman ceremony moving forward until such time as, I mean, this is an NCAA thing, right? That took Reggie Bush's Heisman from him. Until such time as the NCAA gives Reggie Bush back his Heisman, because in Johnny Manziel's words, Reggie Bush is the Heisman. Now, I don't know if this is timed up with the death blow to the NCAA, the potential death blow to the NCAA that the University of Tennessee has been dealing out here lately, but certainly
now's the time to pile on.
Let's go ahead. Come on, Johnny. Let's kick them while they're down. So Johnny Manziel, who's a big marketing attraction, who's certainly visible, who's certainly, whatever his legacy, he's not a perfect messenger, but who there are not many more famous present day, and he's not a present day athlete because Johnny's been out of football for quite some time. How many more Heisman Trophy winners have a bigger profile than Johnny Manziel, though? Now,
Reggie Bush is up there.
Reggie, for sure. Derrick Henry, obviously. Tim Tebow. But this is the top of the top, and at least recent memory, right? Johnny's a much more recent Heisman Trophy winner. He's obviously still with us as the Heisman Trophy's been going on for a long, long time. Him boycotting the Heisman ceremony is not inconsequential.
No.
And I don't know what how the NCAA would talk about the idea of Reggie Bush and the Heisman, especially now when there's a preliminary injunction that removes name, image, and likeness legislation from not legislation from being enforced, but the NCAA's rules on it mostly from being enforced. Good for Johnny. Everybody want to take a shot at the NCAA. I mean, under normal circumstances, everybody want to take a shot at the NCAA, but certainly now, a better time than ever. Is Tebow still the most famous Heisman Trophy winner
of all time?
Who's the Heisman Trophy modeled after? I should probably know that. I don't know. Do you know that?
Oh.
College football expert and an analyst?
I can't remember who the statue.
Yeah, who is the statue? Who is the leather helmet figure on the statue? We have any idea? Everybody in the audience screaming at us. You idiots. You do a sports talk show.
I don't know if there is like an actual.
I don't
know. So Frank Eliscu, a well-known sculptor, worked on the Heisman Trophy. He selected Ed Smith, who was a leading player on the 1934 New York University football team, as his primary model. Wow. That's some great trivia right there.
But the Heisman figure never actually won the Heisman, right?
John Heisman was a legendary coach.
But it's not named after the person who is pictured on the statue.
No, yeah, John Heisman. That is not John Heisman posing. Apparently, it's modeled after Ed Smith.
Okay, very good.
Looks like should be like a 5th grade science teacher or something. Elite athlete of his time.
Yeah, many people have said this. All right, do the poll so I can take my tequila shot.
Not now, Jenny. I'm on the radio. Buck Rising gave me a job. Said something about a poll update. Hope that wasn't at that club where you became a folk singer. Anyway, Buck Rising's producer and correspondent has the final poll update. I'm not a smart man, but I know who Lucas Panzica is.
Presented by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. Which prospect helped themselves the most at the Combine? Dylan says Dallas Turner and Xavier Worthy.
I mean, Dallas Turner was the top edge rusher. I don't know that he just proved that he solidified that he was the top edge rusher, but Xavier Worthy definitely helped himself the most.
Yeah, Turner, an elite athlete. I don't think anybody's surprised that he tested well.
No.
Which prospect hurt themselves the most at the Combine? Anthony says Caleb Williams. Kaz says both Neighbors and Marvin Harrison Jr. One common thread between those three is they did not do the workouts. I don't know that Caleb Williams' draft stock is going down because I feel like people are trying to say this. Like, oh, look how J.J. McCarthy did. Like, come on, man. Caleb Williams is going to be the number 1 pick in the draft.
J.J. McCarthy helped himself for sure.
That's fine.
And
but
he's being
nobody's taking Caleb's spot.
No. It's again, you brought up the Will Anderson complex that we went through last year where we just spent so much time talking about Will Anderson as the top pass rusher that somebody threw out something different and then we all started talking about it being like, no, you fools. It's too much talking and too many months between the time that these guys do the Senior Bowl and the draft discussion really starts in earnest and by the time they actually get picked. Nobody's usurping Caleb Williams just because he didn't throw at the Combine.
What is Tennessee basketball's best win so far this season? At Kentucky, at Bama, Auburn at home, or at home against Illinois, another top 15 team that's played really well since Tennessee beat them in December.
Before you answer, Auburn got the majority of the votes.
No, the Saturday win at Bama. Got
really?
The majority of the votes. Yeah.
Is that a better win than the Auburn win? Now, that was a better Connect performance.
More meaningful in that, you beat the team that was up there at the top of the SEC standings with you, outscored the top offense in the country in a brutal road environment. Mm-hmm. That place was rocking, Coleman Coliseum. Yeah. Meanwhile, Auburn was at home, but both quality wins, both quad 1 wins. And I don't know what the answer to this is. Like, Tennessee does not have, like, the elite top 5, like, because they lost to Purdue, right? They lost at UNC. They lost to Kansas. But they've essentially taken care of business everywhere else. So, still a very good case for a 1 seed. How will you remember Caitlin Clark's record-setting season? Puka says, I still remember Pistol Pete. And this is impressive. Eric says that she did it with a year of eligibility remaining. Awesome getting to see that happen, not only for breaking the women's record, but also the men's. One of those records that just you never thought would be broken.
No.
We do have to remember Pistol Pete did it without a 3-point line, which is
this is crazy.
Insanity.
It's good context, right? And I think that's, there's always going to be people who bring that up as a part of the Caitlin Clark discussion, but still. But you can appreciate both while acknowledging the most recent accomplishment.
Those are the polls.
Excellent. That's the show. By the way, the poll's presented by Two Rivers Ford. Huge shout out to Two Rivers Ford for everything that they do for the radio show. And you can check out the new Two Rivers Ford TV commercial that just went out. You might see a familiar mustached visage. Don't look away. Buy a new Ford. Appreciate you guys for walking with us for the last 3 years. We're hoping to stick around for as long as humanly possible. We'll keep you updated if we get fired. No pink slips yet. It's a good sign. Talk to you tonight on Primetime.